Hi everyone, welcome to the Melt and Pour Soap Christmas in July YouTube collaboration event. This is Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish, and I just want to quickly invite everyone to watch all the videos in the special collaboration playlist. There'll be a link at the end of this video, and there's also a link in the video description. Please give all the videos that you watch a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to any channel that you want to see more from. So for the collaboration, I will be showcasing the cut and fill melt and pour soap technique. So the cut and fill technique involves cutting a shape or shapes from your melt and pour soap, usually with a cookie cutter, and then filling in those shapes with a different color melt and pour soap to create a beautiful design in the soap. Now, I'm not claiming to be the creator of this technique. People have been using cookie cutters to punch holes in melt and pour soap for decades. But this is a technique that I have been playing around a lot with lately. I made these rainbow melt and pour soaps using round cookie cutters a couple of months ago. And also earlier this month, I created these 4th of July inspired star soap bars. Well, I recently came across this set of 20 mini Christmas cookie cutters with some really great designs, and I thought, wow, I could probably make some really cool soap with those. So I bought them, and this is what I came up with. So I made 2 slabs of soap and cut each slab into 4 soap bars. This one here you can see has a beautiful holly motif that I made using the mini holly leaf cookie cutter, and this one here has a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer motif. Each bar weighs about 75 grams, which is just over 2.5 ounces. If I pick this one up here, you can see the pattern does go deep into the soap, but not all the way through it. It has a white back, and I've also included a gold polka dot pattern on it as well, which I have repeated over on the reindeer soap as well. I created this one just with the little reindeer head mini cookie cutter, and I also gave him a red nose, and again that gold polka dot pattern has been used to fill in some of the negative space. I think these are just delightful. I couldn't decide whether to do the holly or whether to do the reindeer, so I just decided to do both. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Here are the silicone molds I used to create my soap slabs. They measure 10 by 15 centimeters, which is 4 by 6 inches. I'm just going to pop them on this tray here. I'm going to fill each slab with 200 grams of melt and pour soap base. I can't really make my soap much deeper than that because of the height of the cookie cutters. So just starting with 200 grams. So I've weighed out some white melt and pour soap base here, and I've melted it in the microwave. I'm just checking that there's no chunks remaining in it and giving it a good stir. I'm going to scent it with Balsam fir essential oil. This is a transparent essential oil, so it will leave my soap nice and white, but also give it a really nice sort of a Christmassy scent. So that's why I chose that essential oil. Now my soap base is ready. I'm just going to spray down my mold with some isopropyl alcohol, and then I'm going to pour all of my soap base into the mold. And after one final spray with the isopropyl alcohol to get rid of any surface bubbles, I will put that aside to set. So far I have followed the exact same process to fill up my other silicone mold, only this time I'm going to be scenting this soap with a combination of wild orange and Douglas fir essential oil, which I think is a beautiful scent. The wild orange obviously has an orange color, and when I stir it into the soap, it gives a slightly off-white tinge to my white soap base, but I think that will work quite well with the brown of the reindeers, so I don't have a problem with that. And it really is just a very subtle shade, but next to the other soap you can tell that it's a slightly different color. But again, pouring all of that into my slab mold, and I'll give it a spray with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of surface bubbles, and I'm going to put both of those aside to set up. Once they are set and quite firm to the touch, you don't want them to be too soft because then they're a bit sticky, which doesn't help with the cutting. So you want them to be quite firm. Here are my little mini cookie cutters that I was talking about. I'm only going to use 2 today, but I mean, you can see the possibilities are endless. Look at them all. So I will be using the holly leaf and also the little reindeer head. I'll just pop the rest away. How cute is that? That is a really cute cookie cutter. I just couldn't resist using that. And I really like this one too. It's a really great holly leaf. I also found online these circular cutters that come down to a really, really small diameter. These are probably for polymer clay crafting, but I thought these are going to come in really handy. So I'm going to take the second smallest and the third smallest circles and I'm just popping them out here. This one has a smaller one inside of it that won't come out. Just going to use a bamboo skewer here just to push it out. Well, you can see how tiny these circular punches are. Just pop that one back in. I'm going to use them in my design today. Check out the video description. I have left some links of where you can find these cutters for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to get started first with the reindeer one. I have a bamboo skewer here. Just keep in mind when you're doing your design that it is going to get cut into 4 separate soap bars. So I'm just going to press the cookie cutter right down into the soap all the way. You can see how I really couldn't make my soap much thicker because it's nearly gone down the whole way to the point where I'm actually having trouble pulling it back out again. So I've got here a wooden spoon that I'm just using the edge of to help me jimmy up the cookie cutter. All cookie cutters or metal cookie cutters have like a folded over lip. So I'm just using the spoon to sort of push against the edge of the lip. And the soap came with it when I pulled that out. So I just popped the soap out. That time the soap didn't come with it. So I did find that randomly sometimes the soap popped out with the cookie cutter. Sometimes the soap didn't pop out. That didn't stop me just from, doing my design. I tried to have the reindeer heads facing all different directions, upside down, left, right, and sort of normal facing as well, so that if the soaps are viewed from any angle, there should be at least one reindeer head facing the right way. So when I finished my design, I just used my bamboo skewer to pry out any of the little reindeer heads that hadn't come out with the cutters. I just sort of dug the skewer in and just flicked it up to push those reindeer heads out. And I sort of toyed with putting an extra one there, but I decided against it. Okay, so here we go. It is hard to come up with a random sort of pattern on the spot. That's what the polka dots are for. They're to sort of even out the design. But I was happy with that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to collect all the little reindeer heads that I just popped out there and weigh them out so I know how much brown soap I'm going to need to fill them up. So I'm going to use transparent soap base this time, plus a little bit extra for wastage. I'm just topping up the essential oils here, and I'm adding 1 drop of titanium dioxide in glycerin. I'm using a latte colored mica powder here. I did find it was probably a little bit darker than I was happy with, so I'm just adding some extra drops of titanium dioxide here just to lighten the brown a little bit. It's really important to give your soap a really good spray down with isopropyl alcohol before you start filling up your little shapes. This ensures that the soap flows freely. I mean, there's some really odd shaped and sized areas here, and you can get sort of air pockets forming if you don't spray the alcohol liberally into those little cavities. I'm using a shot glass sized paper cup here, which I've pinched on the edge to form a spout. I find it helps me get down really close to the surface of the soap without hitting the edge of the mold. And I also recommend that you clean up as you go, because we did give the surface of the soap a good spray down with alcohol. It's quite easy just to use my wooden spoon here just to scrape off any excess soap that overflowed around the edges. Okay, moving on to my holly design now. You can see me here just using my holly leaf punch and also the smaller of my circular punches to create a holly design. Again, I'm using my wooden spoon to help jimmy up the leaf cookie cutter, and I'm also using my bamboo skewer to pry out any of the soap that didn't come out with the cutter. And when I'm happy with that, I will weigh out the little holly leaves, find out how much soap I need, and I will weigh out some transparent soap base. Don't forget a little bit of extra for wastage. And I'm going to, again, just add 1 drop of titanium dioxide. I have an emerald green mica here. I'm also topping up the scent with balsam fir essential oil. So holly leaves are quite dark, so I just wanted to add a little bit of blue just to sort of deepen the green, just get more of a Christmas green. You just saw me there giving the soap a really good spray down with the isopropyl alcohol. Can't emphasize enough how important that is. And now I've just poured some of my green soap into my little paper cup, and I am filling up all my little holly leaves. And you just saw me rotate the mold there so that I could fill up the leaves on the other side without the edge of the mold getting in the way of the paper cup. Okay, looking good. All right, after a brief clean up, I will put that aside to set. So here I am punching nose holes in my little reindeers. Now, I wouldn't be too precious about this, because I discovered that where I thought I was punching the hole on one side wasn't necessarily where the hole ended up on the other side. And if you watch closely here too, when I punch a nose, I'm actually giving the punch a little bit of a wiggle with my thumb before I pull it out, because I was having trouble just extracting some of these noses. And it was because the brown soap was still a little bit soft. So if at any stage you're having trouble removing the shapes that you've punched out of the soap, just put the soap aside to set up a little bit more, because the harder the soap is, the easier it is to extract. So if you're having a lot of trouble, your soap's probably a bit too soft. So I was having trouble here sort of extracting the noses with the bamboo skewer, and I found just sort of wriggling around the punch just helped break the seal of the soap with the mold. There we go, look at that. It's a bit hard to tell, but there's a bunch of little noses there on my reindeer, waiting to be filled up with red soap. So I also took the opportunity now to punch out some polka dots that I will be filling up with gold. Now, as I said before, it can be hard to do like a random pattern just on the spot. So the polka dots are very forgiving of any large spanses of white that you've accidentally left, or any sort of awkward areas. You can fill them up with polka dots, and that just evens out the pattern beautifully. Make sure you also do some really close to the edge. Yeah, see here I'm having way less trouble getting these white polka dots out, because the white soap has set a little bit harder, because it's been setting longer than the brown soap. So that was way easier. There we go. And a couple more polka dots, just checking my design as I go. And yeah, it's great that you can look at the back and see what your design's going to look like, and happy with that. What I am not so happy with is my holly design. The holly berries, they look okay on this side, but if I turn it over, they're probably just a little bit too small. I'm thinking I should have used the larger of my circular punches. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back over all of my holly berries and just make them a little bit larger. At the same time, I'm also going to cut out my polka dots. I'm adding a gold polka dot pattern to this soap as well. And I'm actually making sure to keep the soap that I pulled out for the holly berries and the soap that I pulled out for the polka dots separate. because I want to weigh them out separately later. All right, I'm just checking out my design on the back here. I did mangle some of those holly berries, just trying to make them bigger, but oh, it's no matter. It's nature. Nature isn't perfect. They'll be fine. Okay, so next I want to pour my red noses and my red holly berries. So I'm just collecting up all the soap scraps that I cut for the noses and the berries, and then I will know how much soap base I need to fill them all up again with red this time. So just quickly calculating that now. And I'm going to melt down some transparent soap base again. Make sure that you add extra for wastage, maybe even a little bit more than usual, because these little holes, it's very easy to spill soap when you're trying to fill them up. Okay, so I've just got some red soap here. I haven't scented this soap, it's a very small amount, but I did put some red mica in and a drop of titanium dioxide. I've sprayed both of my molds with isopropyl alcohol because I don't want any air pockets in these tiny little dots that I'm filling up here. So here I am filling up the holly berries and now the noses. After that, I made myself some gold soap, just using the transparent base again, a drop of titanium dioxide and some gold mica. And here I am filling up all of the little polka dots. I'm making a big mess here. The soap was flowing so freely and it was just pouring out of the holes. I had a lot of overflow. But yeah, just take the opportunity while the soap's still a little bit soft to clean up all of the overflow, especially clean up the side of the mold if there's any stuck to the side of the mold. So I'm just using the back of my wooden spoon here and my bamboo skewer just to tidy up all these bits here. I can see here I didn't realize I actually forgot a little polka dot there because there was so much soap spilt. I didn't realize. But there we go. Okay. So here they are now. All the soap is fully set. Before I go any further, I just need to do a little bit of tidy up. So I'm going to take this cellulose cloth here. And I'm just going to make sure that my soap mold is nice and clean before I pour my final layer. And I'm going to also just buff the surface of the soap. I've cleaned up most of the overflow as I went, but there's still just a few smudges here and there and a little bit of residual soap. So I'm just wiping down and buffing. Make sure you get there's a little bit of soap here stuck to the mold. I don't want that to show up in my next layer. So check your mold as well, give that a good clean. I'm just buffing the surface and making sure that the pattern is nice and sharp. Here we go. Here the definitely need to do some work on these holly berries because if there is sort of like a lot of smudges and stuff as you're using the soap, when you get to that part of the soap, the pattern won't be as sharp. You'll see those smudges and weird shapes. So this is just to make sure that the soap looks good as you're using it. There we go. That's nice and neat there. You can see exactly what our soap is going to look like by looking at the back. But that has helped us all the way along with our design. Okay, so now it's time to pour my final layer, and I am going to be reusing all the scraps that I cut out. So these are the scraps from the holly soap. I'm weighing them out. I need 120 grams for my next layer. So I'm using the scraps and then I'm adding some more soap base to make the total amount up to 120 gram. Also take account of how much new soap base you add because you will need to add some more essential oil to top up the scent. So just add 1.25% or whatever the weight of the new soap base is. So I've weighed that all down. I'm just checking for chunks, giving it a bit of a spray with the alcohol and topping up the essential oils. This is Balsam Fir essential oil. I'm going to quickly stir that in, and as soon as that is all mixed together, I will spray down the surface of my soap with my isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to pour that last layer. There we go. So this just finishes off the back of the soap nicely, and it's just going to make the soap bars a little bit bigger than they were, just a better size soap bar. Before they were a little bit small, in my opinion. Okay, and exactly the same for Rudolph here. I am weighing out all of the scraps and topping up the amount of soap to 120 grams with some new soap base here. I'm going to melt that down in the microwave, top up the essential oils. This one is wild orange and Douglas fir. And finally spray down my mold and pour my final layer. The end of a truly epic Christmas in July project. Okay, so I left these overnight to fully set, and now I'm going to unmold them. There's no great reveal here because we already sort of know exactly what they're going to look like. But the best way to unmold them is just to loosen up the edges by prying them away from the soap edge, and then turn it over. Make sure the surface that you're turning them out onto is nice and clean. Just tap the back of the mold just to break the seal of the soap with the silicone, and normally the silicone will just gently let go of your soap and you can just pull the mold away. How easy was that? Okay, so here they are. Let's take a look at them. Rudolph is looking pretty smart here, surrounded by his gold polka dots. And here are the holly berries. Like I said, some of the holly berries are a little bit mangled, but if I used the larger round punch to begin with, they'd be perfectly shaped berries. That wouldn't be a problem. Okay, I'm just going to turn these over so I can cut them. And I just want to replace this piece of parchment paper because it was getting a bit dirty. So I have here a ball-tipped stylus and a ruler. I'm going to measure out half of my length here, which is 5 centimeters, or about 2 inches, and just score a line down the center there. There we go. And again, I will also be cutting the soaps in half this way too. I'll end up with a 5 by 7.5 centimeter bar, or about a 2 by 3 inch bar, which I think is a good size. There we go. Now that I've scored those, I can just use my soap cutter to cut straight down the middle. Make sure you keep your soap cutter at a 90-degree angle with the bench to get a nice straight right angle cut. And it's just as simple as that. There we go. I now have 4 of each design. Here we go. Let's turn this around. Let's have a look at how these came out. Very, very cute. I'm really loving these. So you can see from the side how deep the design goes. It almost looks a little bit like a barcode, all these little stripes on the side of all the different colors. Here's Rudolph. You can see at the side, sort of where the 2 layers meet, there's a little bit of unevenness, but you can buff that out. That's no problem. Oh, look, there's a little red nose that was cut in half. Yeah, looks like a Christmas barcode. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to give these a buff. This is the absolute final step here. I have my cellulose cloth here again that I'm going to use. It's up to you how far you want to go with the buffing. I always like to round the edges, especially if you've got some edges that are molded and some edges that have been cut. It's best just to sort of round all the edges off with the cloth and then they're uniform. Take some time to maybe buff out the sides if there's sort of like a line where the 2 layers meet or some unevenness there. Give the top surface a little bit of a buff too. It just gives it a nice sheen. And that's all you really need to do. So let's take a look at it when it's finished. There we go. Just a really pretty and nice and smooth bar of soap. So here they are, all buffed and pretty looking. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and the Christmas in July collaboration. Please go ahead and watch all the other videos in the collaboration playlist. There'll be a link at the end of this video, and there's also a link in the video description. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what I do here at the Dancing Soap Dish. And until next time, guys, enjoy!